Jaws really set the stage for our fear of sharks. The idea was that a dead shark is a good shark, but now that couldn't be further from the truth. An ocean without sharks is a much scarier place than an ocean with them. One way to undo fear of sharks is to teach people about how important they are to the oceans. That they shouldn't be afraid of sharks, but they need to care about what role they play and what we need to do to protect and ensure there's healthy populations of sharks. Sit really quietly and close your eyes and take a deep breath. That last breath and a half that you just took, you can thank the oceans for that. About 75% of our oxygen is coming from the ocean. So the oceans are a big deal in terms of survival of life as we know it on the planet. The oceans, like many ecosystems, are in a delicate ecological balance. You have to have a variety of food web interactions, but what's sitting at the very top of that food web are sharks, keeping everything in balance below it. So if you don't have healthy and abundant populations of apex predators, well, you simply don't have healthy oceans, and that could have cascading consequences, not only in the marine ecosystems, but in land-based ecosystems as well. I've been very interested in the oceans and the outdoors and fishing since I was a young child. Sharks have this charismatic nature about them, and so people are naturally drawn to sharks, and I was no different. Sharks are highly refined predators. Mother Nature and evolution has been acting on them for millions and millions of years. They can detect, for example, about 1 drop of blood in 1 million gallons of water, so we're talking about an Olympic-sized pool, and all of that occurs in this sensory system around their head. They're very fast predators. They have large dorsal fins and pectoral fins which stabilize them as they cruise through the water to make really fascinating turns. So that way they can hunt down and capture their prey. And of course, the most prominent feature of sharks are the jaws. Each shark has a unique tooth. Different species can be recognized by the shape of their teeth. A bigger tooth means you've got a bigger shark. So this is a megalodon. We think this was the largest shark to ever live on the earth. Then it was probably the top predator that ever roamed the oceans. It probably ate other sharks bigger than white sharks as its prey. There is some speculation that these could still be in the oceans, but realistically, probably not. Technology that we have in our hands today is quite incredible. We can put sophisticated tags on the fins of shark and track them real time anywhere they go in the world. The first thing, of course, we've got to do when we have a tag like this is we got to catch the animal to be able to put it on it. So this is a satellite tag. Every time the shark swims and it clears the surface of the water, it sends us a high-speed connection anywhere on the planet right to our smartphones. In fact, you can even go on our shark tracker. Our sharks have Facebook pages, they tweet, and they develop a wonderful following because they report back, surprisingly enough, multiple times per day where they are on the planet. We've discovered some really incredible things about sharks in the Gulf of Mexico, particularly, for example, with our mako sharks. They come and go throughout the Gulf of Mexico, down in the Caribbean, and literally right back to the spot we tag them on an annual basis. What we're still trying to figure out is exactly why, and that's why we suspect that the Gulf of Mexico is probably a breeding ground for these sharks. This is Einstein. Einstein was a hammerhead. We tagged him off of Corpus Christi, and he had 2 really core errors, and he was back and forth, probably one of our best reporters. He was at the surface all the time reporting back. And then one day, we got a ping from up here, and a straight line shot all the way down there, took a hard right turn, and so Einstein was sitting in a small fishing village down in Mexico. The reason I'm telling you that is because we have a huge problem with illegal fishing in the Gulf of Mexico, and we have it worldwide. The rate of extraction of these sharks is quite incredible. In fact, sharks are removed from the ocean at a rate of about 12,000 per hour. This is an industrialized fishing fleet that they're pulling a shark up from a long line. And it's actually a brutal process. They're not after the sharks for the meat, they're after the sharks for the fins. Fins from the sharks are a very valuable commodity. Typically, they're traded on the black market because sale of those fins are prohibited. There's a dish called shark fin soup where most of it ends up. We call it extinction in a bowl of soup. There's typically no nutrients involved with this. It's strictly sort of man's desire to eat top apex predators. The fins, as you might imagine, can be very expensive. Even small sharks sell for a few $1,000s, a couple $100s for a very small fin. But you get a more desirable fin, let's say from a hammerhead or even a whale shark, you're paying upwards of $20,000. The finning process has caused a dramatic decline in shark populations globally. And with sharks, we have a big problem. They have a life strategy very similar to elephants, which means they're slow to mature, they're long-lived, and when they do reproduce, they have very few young. They can't withstand that level of extraction from the ocean. The chances of you getting bit by a shark are very remote. And so to put that into perspective, 30 people a year are killed by ants, 130 by deer, 40 by jellyfish. If you've been in Africa, stay away from the hippopotamus. The chances of you getting bit by sharks, when you look at those statistics, globally, sharks get about 5 people per year. So your chances of being hurt or injured by a shark are extremely rare. We really shouldn't be afraid of sharks, given the important role they play in our ecosystem. I find it extremely fortunate to be able to work with these charismatic animals, and sometimes it almost doesn't seem real when you're next to some of the largest fish in the ocean. Their power, their ability to catch their prey, and many of the animals we deal with, mako sharks for example, are the fastest fish in the ocean, oftentimes leaping 30+ feet or more out of the water. It's quite incredible. Sharks are such great ambassadors for the ocean. We're really proud to convey to people not only the science behind sharks, but the important role they play. We really need to rethink the shark. They're really not that much of a scary animal, and the role they play in the oceans is very important.